I'm going to share my screen. And basically what this is just an article. It's not even really an article per se, but it is a kind of report, something. This is a Michigan.gov thing. And it's just talking about gambling revenue in the state of Michigan. And for those of us who know, like online sports betting has only been a new thing in the last couple of years. I think 2021 maybe was when this was first legalized. Interesting, during COVID. Not sure if that's true, but I think it was about the same time. This right here is kind of the monthly handle. Total internet sports betting handle at 512 million. They're talking about December. Was down about 18% from 631 million. Was recorded in November of 2025.
Wait, those are monthly numbers?
Those are monthly numbers for the state of Michigan.
Wait, what?
Yes. And so thank you for that response, because that is appropriate. That is actually the appropriate response. And this is kind of akin to topics we've talked about earlier in the program, like on other episodes, for example, OnlyFans or other destructive behavior, or even maybe like the behavior we just, or the segment we just talked about in terms of problems with society. I think online gambling is a very big problem in society. Now they have all these advertisements all the time. $511 million December of 2025. I mean, that's serious money, man. That is serious money that people are putting into these gambling apps, and I don't think it's a good thing. I don't like it, but at the same time, I mean, if you were to go ask the advocates, they say it's a great revenue generator for people.
I have two things. One, cavemen were definitely gambling. Don't think that
sure.
they weren't. They were like, oh, yeah, Grug over there is it's just he owes so many tusks to Borg, and it's bad. Like his woman is not happy with him. He's in deep, and they're all like, yeah, hey, you want to bet on this next mammoth hunt? And he's like, I'm down. Yeah. Let's go. Double or nothing.
Double or nothing.
Double or nothing. The second thing that I wanted to say is I have a question actually about the history of the legality of gambling, because this is something I don't know much about, but disclaimer, I voted libertarian quite a bit in my electoral history. I know that you have some libertarian tendencies. Libertarians like for things to be legal. They don't like prohibition. But this has clearly been something that has been banned before, and it has been loosened up a little bit, and clearly the floodgates have opened, because $600 million a month is insane, especially for a state like Michigan that has less than 10 million people. Michigan has like 9.5 million.
Yeah,
those numbers are wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think they are wild, and I think there's a couple different ways that you can like look at this. Have people been wagering? Of course, people are wagering people, a wagering species. That's how we actually move forward. You have to be able to take risks, and this is something that's just completely endemic to life. There are no certainties. There are very few certainties, right? So you have to have a gambling nature. You have to be able to take risks. You have to be able to do that. I think the reason that this is upsetting to me is because this is a like contrived risk. This is not real risk for advancing your life. This is not real risk for helping your community. This is not real risk in terms of, there are just like existential risks out there, like you getting hurt by a mammoth hunt or you getting hit by a truck, even though you're driving properly. Like there are just existential risks, right? Someone comes and invades your country. Like this is, I'm trying to scratch that humans are risk-taking creatures in this like contrived way. So I think that it's a major problem, and I think it's a signal that society has pent up energy that's not being properly vented in, I'll use the word, healthy risk-taking behavior.
Yeah, there's definitely energy in society that is not being healthily vented.
No.
Gambling specifically is interesting because I think that it exists in this more toxic variety in more places than we like to admit. I saw a headline earlier today. I was taking a break from work. I'm gainfully employed. It's nice. I was taking a break because I work hard. And one of the headlines said, Kalshi, which for our listeners that don't know is a prediction market app. Is that what you would call it? Prediction market service. Said that they are going to start offering bets on whether certain cancer patients survive their treatment. And I didn't click on it because, again, this is like that epistemic static. It's like, do I want to spend the time trying to figure out if this is real or not? If it is, that's not great. If it's not real, why am I seeing? Why is someone wasting my time triggering me like this? Either way, it's bad. But these prediction markets are insane. I don't want to get too far away from sports betting because it's a special kind of betting. But I just want to say, in general, the stock market, man. I mean, how much of the actual stock market, which is given like the Masters. Have you ever seen commercials for the Masters? Speaking of sports, where they're like,
of course, golf
play,
thing,
whatever. They'll play classical music and they'll be like the Masters and show these, or that's the pure Michigan music. They're like, it's so classy, the Masters. That's kind of how CNBC tries to present the stock market. They're like, the stock market, noble, whatever of, American industry. It's gambling. It's pretty much gambling. I know there's
you're out of your
intelligent
mind,
investor.
Don. You're
There's
out
all
of your
this.
mind.
It's mostly gambling.
No.
Are you sure?
I'll tell you why you can do it like gambling, but it has a different purpose. So, okay, you're going to go day trading and you have no idea what's
for
going
retail
on with the
investors.
underlying company.
For retail investors.
No, I don't agree with you on that either. If you are a retail investor and you've got $10,000 and you're going to start the day and you start ripping on whatever your favorite little brokerage app is, I don't care if it's Vanguard or Rainbow or Robinhood or whoever you want to go put your money in, they all are almost zero commissions now. So you're like, okay, I'm going to put 10 grand on, pick a company in the Fortune 500, right? The S&P 500. You go, I don't know, Dow Chemical. I made it up. I don't know anything about Dow Chemical other than like some very. I do know a little bit. There are a few like wild things. Like
keep going.
I meant more like I don't know anything about their sales right now. I don't know anything about their technology portfolio, what products they actually sell. I don't know anything about their current position. I don't know anything about their exposure to things like the war in Iran, right? I mean, all these things are like deeply interconnected. If I'm just putting it all on that and I'm going to cash out at the end of the day, that's gambling. Sure. But if I am taking surplus income from my paycheck every cycle and systematically investing it in an index fund with a long time horizon, that's the opposite of gambling. I'm making a strategic risk on your society. Like that's a bet on America.
Let me be more specific. Okay. I'm not talking about people that dollar cost average into like an S&P 500 index. Boring. I'm talking about the people who, so did you know that these apps like Robinhood offer you leverage? If they'll allow you to just borrow money from them at like a very, like I can't remember the exact terminology right now. You do not need a lot of money to be able to buy stocks with money you borrow from Robinhood.
Yeah,
that seems like gambling to me because that's how these sports betting apps work as well, right? They will
didn't know that.
Lend you money to bet. I have never done it personally. I think I should sometime. I would like to bet on maybe some more exotic sports. I'm not going to go and just throw money down on the NFL and spend $200 on the Buffalo Bills. Like I would want to go bet on, rally cars or something. I don't know. I won't do any sports betting. But yes, I'm pretty sure you can borrow money to bet because I've seen commercials where they're just like, whatever bonus money first time download bet.
Well, that I think is a little different. I think that's them like trying to get you like on the app, and they'll give you some credits to try to get the addiction, the addiction part of your brain rolling. That's what I think a lot of that is. Now, those stock trading apps, like buying on leverage, is definitely something people do. I mean, that's a tool that you can lever up your exposure, right? Where it's like, okay, typically what happens is you need like a margin to hold that. So you might have some kind of a lever, where you're like, okay, I have access to 10-to-1 lever or 4-to-1 lever or something like that. And then you're able to put that money down. But then as the position moves, so if the value of the asset starts to go down and you're long on that stock, you're not short, you have to put more money in to keep that lever. They call it a margin call. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't get the money, they'll start selling your securities to pay that off. So it is a way to amplify your exposure. The problem is you can blow up. You can really lose your money very, very quickly because whatever your lever ratio is, that's how much faster your movement goes. So you got to be careful with that for sure. It's a good way to lose a lot of money, man.
Yeah. I've never done that before. I've only engaged in more wholesome investing, like YOLOing my life savings into Bitcoin.
Nice.
Like an adult. But the sports betting is this. I need to get back to the sports betting because the 600 million a month is crazy. And the fact that it's just sports is also crazy. I mean, if I had more extra money, like if I had enough extra money, I would probably be betting it on the market and not on sports. Maybe that's a personality thing for me, but I mean, are most people who are watching sports also betting on it?
I don't know about most. I know a few for sure. We actually could have Joe America, another friend of the show. He might be listening, but he's a guy that I know is really into sports betting, at least at certain parts of his life. And I didn't think to call him, to be honest. Maybe we can have him on in a future like rebuttal. Maybe we could have him on in a future comment section.
We should have a follow up from someone who's experienced because I'm just speculating.
Yeah. Well, I think you don't necessarily have to have experience to say like make a call on this. And I think basically what you and I are both getting at is I think it's actually a predatory product because I think that it is. I think there are people who do this just for fun and it allows them to feel like they're part of the game that they're watching because they have something on the line. I think is actually the underlying psychology of sports betting. But I think for a lot of people, it is actually a very pernicious way to play to their ego and say like, you're a smart guy. Why don't you go bet on the, I don't know, the stinking Browns Lions game, right? Like, what's up with these guys. The stats, like, who's going to win. And, oh, by the way, we're going to take like the spread on this as an app and we're taking the spread on this and we're going to make money. And, no big deal. You're going to get really rich. And they don't tell you that obviously these are businesses and people are making money off of it. And I actually think that this is yet another example of our government knowing that they're not doing a good job. So they have to distract the electorate because otherwise they're going to start to have some real problems. And we're starting to see that coming through.
But does your inner libertarian think that this should be banned?
Of course not. Of course I want this to be legal. But I mean, as I get older, I'm starting to realize a little bit of the foolishness of a lot of my libertarian views in the sense that I was assuming that a lot of people had a lot of the self-control I did. A lot of them had the experience and education that I do. A lot of them came from families that cared about me, and I was able to actually ask people advice and this kind of thing. So I'm starting to kind of revisit a lot of these when it comes to like real politics because it's like, do I want to have a limit on the size of soda? No, I don't. But like, it's pretty clear that a lot of people can't handle drinking Coke. Like they just drink too much and then they have bad health. And it's like, I don't know how you control that, but like what we're doing right now is just not working. Maybe education is a way, but
Coca-Cola, sports betting, social media, these are all engineered products that are designed to make money off people who are addicted. Like
Yeah.
the addiction is part of the business plan. It's not a byproduct.
No.
And
And that's, yeah.
is that we, how do I say this? We have these assumptions about business in this mythology of the American economy where just business is good. I don't know how to say it better than that, where it's not necessarily a logical statement, but it's an emotional statement. Like business is good. I mean, industry is good. We look up to these iconic American brands and companies, Coca-Cola, blah, 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 what's a social media company? Meta,
Instagram, yeah.
even Ford, like these car companies tore out a lot of the rail network to make us, I don't know a better way to say it, addicted to cars. So addiction is part of the business model. And my question is, do we need to redo our mythology to mitigate that kind of behavior? Is that just, as you said earlier, is that just an endemic behavior to business itself? Like, you are going to make money off people who are addicted. Are you ever going to be able to stop businesses from doing that? Are they wrong in doing that? Is it the people's fault for being too addicted?
Well, I think there's many things that you've just said, but I will say this. I think doing business is to be human. Because what is doing business? Doing business is offering a product or service to people and having them exchange something, usually money in today's societies, for that product. That is what business is. It's providing a product or a service, right? So to do business is to be human. We all do that. Even if the product is our intellect or our labor, that is still a product or a service. So I don't think you're going to get away with that. Now, the hope is that the people leading your society, the people leading these businesses, are ethical people. Now, that's the real problem here. And, in a sane culture, in a sane society, people who were unethical would not be celebrated. There would be a second pass on that. I used to say this all the time, but maybe I'll just say this as my final thought on this kind of topic, because we could go on for days. Americans in general have confused wealth with wisdom, right? And wisdom has it's a very loaded word, but it implies kind of an ethic, a morality to it. I'm not here just for one cycle. I want to play long games. And if you're actually wanting to play long games as a business and a society, you don't want to have a product that's destroying your society. And gambling apps, in my opinion, are a contributing factor to destroying society.
This made me remember a time a few years ago. I think it was you said this was legalized in 2021.
I think so. I can't remember.
I think this was in 2021. I went over to visit my little sister and her friend, and they sat down on the couch and they said, "Let's watch Euphoria," that the show that Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney are in. I haven't seen it, but it's popular. And they turned this show on to, very young women who have, I don't think they've ever watched sports on this television. It's not in their algorithm. The first thing that comes up, DraftKings. How did this ad get fed to you guys? They were like, someone was like, yeah, so DraftKings, what we can do is we can tailor the algorithm, and anyone who has watched sports will feed the ad to, and they're like, no, send it to everyone. So my grandma is probably sitting there watching videos on how to make your rose bush thrive better in colder temperatures. DraftKings.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and then there's all
sports.
I'll say one more thing too. Is I remember, and I don't remember if it was FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever. One of these big apps was. There's a difference between like gambling and skills-based games in terms of the perspective of the law. And they were trying to basically argue that like this is a skill-based thing. This is not actually gambling. Like you see what I'm saying there? And I remember there was this whole like, movement and this, that, and the other. And I think they ended up like winning those court cases and those like kind of regulatory things. But, I guess it gets back to, it kind of gets back to the first topic, or the topic we were talking about before this civilization. And it's like, you didn't have to worry about someone trying to sell you some product that was completely designed to exploit your I'll just say lizard brain, even though I know it's more complicated than that, but your lizard brain, right? And what you did is there were an engineered product, and there were, I'm sure, equivalent risks to society, but you were embedded in a community that had like a wise elder. Maybe it was some kind of matriarch that was kind of like, hey, silly Sally, like, I know it sounds like a really great idea, and I know it's like XYZ, but like, trust me, like, this is going to blow your life up. Like, you know what I mean? And I think there was probably more of that going on. And I think that the engineeredness of a lot of these things was much lower, right? There weren't as many like, actors out there trying to be like, oh, we're going to hijack these people's, brain systems in a way so they stick on these apps.
Well, I have one last thing to say as well. And then we can move on to our next topic. I was reading a book last night called How to See Someone. I cannot remember the name of the author, but it's the book. I'm only half of the way through it. I kind of understand it as a manual for how to have deeply engaging conversations and experiences with another person, regardless of how similar or different they are from you. The beginning of the book, I was like, this is kind of boring. He's like, this is how you really listen. And he gets to the middle of the book and he says, okay, we've covered the basics. Now I'm going to drop it on you, because we are in a very, people are more disturbed than they used to be. And so getting to know someone and really seeing someone is much more challenging than it was even 20 years ago. He's like, I'm in my 50s, 60s, whatever. He's like, I can tell you things have changed. One of the things that he points out is he feels like connecting with people is more difficult because of a decline in what he called moral education. And he said that this used to be a priority. And he is in living memory of this, where there was, even in public schools, definitely in families, in churches, there was this shared idea that people needed to be taught a moral framework that was shared among many people and was consistent. And I'm not trying to say that this should have been moral or that should have been moral. I'm simply saying that it's like a 1 and a 0. There was a moral framework. And then he said in the 1970s, they kind of started getting rid of it. And then churches started going away, which was another way this was communicated. And he said the final death stroke was families stopped caring about the moral education of their children and became more concerned with their achievement of wealth and status.
Yes.
And children, he said children that grew up in his generation simply, I think some Gen X or boomer, he said simply did not learn a moral framework at all. And he's not sure exactly why that is. And I wasn't alive to see that happen, but that is something that maybe we can interrogate more deeply in another episode of the program, because I think that there's a lot to pull apart there that would help us understand some of these issues like gambling and addiction and how business leaders behave and whatnot.
That would be worth revisiting. There's an extremely rich area there, and I would agree with the author's observations. And I mean, you can tell that even, most of the greatest generation has now passed away, but there was something different about most of them now when you kind of look back on it. And I mean, in terms of, I'll just give you like one very silly example. Like I was speaking with someone, and this was a couple years ago, and I think it was a young lady. She was like a cheerleader at one of these major SEC schools. And like, she did this whole like lingerie shoot, and they paid her all this money. And I was kind of like, wow, that's like a bad call. Like I wouldn't do that. And they were like, but she made $10 million. And I'm like, or whatever it was, and I'm like, yeah, but she's like going to have to explain those pictures to her kid and someday. And I'm like, I understand $10 million is a ton of money. But I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want to marry someone like that who had done that. And I mean, the look in the room was just like I was out of my mind because that $10 million was worth like all of the dignity that woman, in my opinion, lost. Now, people will say I'm like a slut shamer or something now, but I think that comes from that morality, that common morality of like.
But it's also a different argument, right? Like people getting upset because they're like, what? But she made this money. Because you could see people from people with like a more feminist thing, like, oh, well, this was empowering for her or whatever.
Right.
Right. So
I
that's
don't think
almost
it was
like a
empowering,
different, right. Regardless of what you think, that would be like an argument from a different moral framework. Just the money part that's the zero I'm talking about. The 1 to 0. They're like, there is no moral judgment. Money is the final arbiter.
Right. Exactly. I see what you're saying. I agree with you.